The world has long been captivated by the love story of King Frederik X of Denmark and his beloved Queen Mary, a tale that began far from the glittering palaces of Copenhagen and unfolded in the most unexpected of settings. Yet behind the carefully curated photographs, the formal speeches, and the elegant appearances at state events lies a far more intimate chapter, one that King Frederik himself has now opened up about with a confession so heartfelt it has left royal watchers across the globe in awe. This is the story of the moment he knew, deep in his heart, that Mary Donaldson, the woman he had met by pure chance during the 2000 Sydney Olympics, was the one he would love forever. The moment that certainty crystallized in his soul came not during a grand royal gala or an opulent ceremony, but after he had crossed the threshold into her family's home and encountered the warmth, authenticity, and love that defined the Donaldson household. According to King Frederik's own words, there was something profoundly grounding about meeting the people who had shaped Mary's character. He saw the threads of her kindness, her humility, her strength, all woven into the tapestry of her family bonds. In their laughter, in the unspoken understanding between them, in the way they embraced him not as a crown prince but as a man in love with their daughter, he saw the truest reflection of the woman he adored. Frederik, who had spent much of his life in the structured world of Danish royalty, found himself stepping into a family dynamic unlike anything he had known. The Donaldsons, warm and unpretentious, treated him with a natural ease, offering him cups of tea and conversations around the table that were genuine and unfiltered. It was in that authenticity that Frederik felt something shift inside him, a recognition that Mary's upbringing had given her a strength and groundedness that would sustain them through the demands of royal life. That evening, as stories were shared and family photos passed around, he could see the roots of Mary's compassion and her ability to make others feel seen. He realized he wasn't just in love with Mary, but with the life she came from, a life that felt real, stable, and unwaveringly kind. Years later, in his candid confession, Frederik admitted that it was in that moment, amidst the warmth of her family, that he knew with absolute clarity, she was the one. The formality of royal tradition often distances love from reality, but here he was, immersed in the very real, very human heart of the woman he would marry. That night planted the seed of a certainty that would guide him through the challenges of their relationship, the intense public scrutiny, and the years of service to come. This was not just a love born of chemistry or circumstance, but one grounded in mutual respect, shared values, and the deep understanding that comes from knowing each other's origins. In the years that followed, that early meeting with Mary's family became a private touchstone for Frederik. When royal duties demanded endless public appearances, when political tensions tested the resilience of the crown, and when the spotlight turned uncomfortably bright on their marriage, Frederik would remember the quiet security of that moment. He often spoke about how Mary's sense of duty, her patience, and her unshakable moral compass were all rooted in the love and stability of her upbringing. It made him certain that she would not just stand beside him as a wife, but as a true partner in the immense responsibility of being monarch. Royal insiders have said that Frederik's confession has struck a chord because it reminds people that behind the royal titles, behind the centuries of tradition and ceremony, lies something profoundly human, the need to feel at home in the presence of the one you love. For Frederik, that sense of belonging came not just from Mary herself, but from the family who raised her. This is what gave their romance the endurance it has shown over the decades, weathering personal trials and the weight of expectation from the Danish public. It also explains why, even now as king and queen, Frederik and Mary make family values a cornerstone of their reign, ensuring that their own children, Crown Prince Christian, Princess Isabella, and twins Prince Vincent and Princess Josephine, experience a grounded upbringing despite their royal status. The story has reignited interest in the origins of their romance, prompting many to reflect on how love is often cemented in the smallest of moments. For Frederik, it wasn't the first kiss, the glamorous balls, or the formal engagement announcement that sealed his devotion. It was something quieter, something more telling. The way Mary's father, John Donaldson, spoke about her with quiet pride, the way her siblings laughed with her over shared childhood memories, the way her family treated him not as a future king, but as a man who loved their daughter. Frederik's confession has also become a powerful reminder of the role families play in shaping who we become and in sustaining love over time. In the often politically calculated world of royalty, where alliances and appearances matter so much, the Danish monarch's openness about this deeply personal moment has resonated in a way few royal interviews do. It shows a king who is unafraid to speak about the vulnerability of love, about the importance of connection, and about the human truth that titles and crowns cannot replace the feeling of being truly known. It is often said that love stories are written in the grand gestures, the surprise proposals, the unforgettable trips, the magical first meetings. But in truth, the strongest ones are quietly etched into the everyday moments that don't seem extraordinary to anyone but the people who share them. That is what makes King Frederik's heartfelt confession so profoundly moving. For all the privilege and spectacle of his royal life, the defining point in his love story with Mary came in the intimacy of a family living room, far from the trappings of monarchy. And perhaps that is why the Danish public has always felt a special kinship with Queen Mary, because she brings with her an origin that is grounded, relatable, and deeply human. As stories of their relationship circulated after Frederik's recent words, old friends of the Donaldson family have painted a vivid picture of that evening when the Crown Prince of Denmark stepped into their world. Mary's parents, John and Henrietta, were known in their community not for any pomp or grandeur, but for their warmth, generosity, and grounded values. The home was filled with the smells of home cooking and the easy flow of conversation. It was, by all accounts, an environment where everyone felt welcome, no matter their background. To Frederik, who was raised in the formal surroundings of Amalienborg Palace, where protocol guided even private moments, this openness was something entirely new and intoxicating. What struck him most was not just the kindness of the Donaldson family but the way they seemed completely unawed by his royal status. They didn't treat him as an untouchable figure or as a man to be impressed. They treated him simply as Mary's guest, a person worth knowing for himself. That absence of pretense allowed him to relax, to let his guard down in a way that is rare for someone constantly under the public eye. It was in those unguarded hours, surrounded by laughter and warmth, that he caught a glimpse of the life he wanted, a life built on genuine human connection rather than ceremonial obligation. Mary, too, must have felt the significance of that meeting. For someone stepping into royal life, the approval and support of one's family are essential, not merely for tradition's sake but for emotional survival. Royal duties can be isolating, the constant attention can be suffocating, and without a strong foundation of love and loyalty, the strain can be immense. The fact that Frederik not only accepted but embraced her family as his own was a sign that their bond was built to endure. This confession by the king is also a subtle yet powerful rejection of the stereotype that royal matches are calculated alliances. In the past, marriages among European monarchies were often arranged for political advantage or to strengthen international ties. But here was a future king admitting that his decision to commit his life to Mary was not born out of strategy or necessity. It was born out of an unshakable personal certainty that she was the right partner, and that certainty was reinforced by the very people who had raised her. In the years since their marriage in 2004, this connection to Mary's roots has remained visible in subtle ways. Despite their position, the couple have chosen to raise their 4 children with a blend of royal tradition and everyday normalcy. They have been spotted on school runs, at local sports events, and taking family vacations in ways that, while still covered by the press, reflect a desire for their children to grow up with a sense of normal life. Royal commentators have often attributed this approach to Mary's Australian upbringing, a value system she has consciously brought into her role as queen, and to Frederik's recognition of its importance, something he learned firsthand in that first visit to her family. It is also telling that even after ascending to the throne earlier this year, King Frederik has continued to speak openly about the personal side of his life. While many monarchs maintain a certain distance to preserve an aura of mystery, Frederik's willingness to share emotional truths has made him one of the most relatable royal figures in Europe. His confession is not merely romantic, it is an invitation for the public to see him as more than a king, to see him as a man whose greatest title is not Your Majesty, but husband and father. For Queen Mary, hearing such words from her husband would no doubt be deeply meaningful. Public life, particularly for women in royalty, often comes with relentless scrutiny. From the cut of her dresses to the way she parents her children, every detail is dissected. To have her partner publicly acknowledge not only his love for her but also the influence and value of her family is a powerful statement of support. It affirms that her identity is not defined solely by her role as queen but also by the life she led before, and the people who shaped her into the woman she is today. The Danish public has long admired Mary for her ability to transition so seamlessly into royal duties without losing her personal authenticity. That authenticity, Frederik's confession suggests, is rooted in her family life in Tasmania and her early years in Australia, something he saw clearly from the start. And perhaps that is the most touching element of his story, that he fell in love not with an idealized image of a princess, but with a woman whose values, character, and origins were as important to him as her beauty or charm. In a time when royal marriages across Europe have been tested, by public criticism, by personal scandals, by the shifting relevance of monarchy, Frederik and Mary's partnership has remained one of stability and mutual respect. The secret to that stability, it seems, lies in the very moment the king now recalls with such fondness. For all the challenges they have faced, that meeting with Mary's family gave him the confidence that they could face anything together. And over the past 2 decades, they have proven that belief right. Even now, as they navigate the pressures of leading Denmark into a new era, the lesson of that early experience seems to guide them. That true leadership is rooted in humanity, that love is sustained by understanding, and that the strongest foundations are built long before the world starts watching. As the king's confession continues to circulate, inspiring conversations about love, commitment, and the role of family, one thing becomes clear: royal or not, the heart knows when it has found its home. And for King Frederik, that knowledge began not in a palace or at a ball, but in the laughter-filled warmth of a home in Australia, where he first knew, without a doubt, that he loved her. So now the world is left with a story not of fairy tale fantasy, but of something far richer, of love grounded in reality, sustained by family, and carried through life with unwavering devotion. And it invites a question for all who hear it. When that defining moment comes in your own life, will you recognize it, and will you hold on to it forever? And perhaps that is why the public has embraced this confession so warmly. It is a reminder that real love, whether royal or ordinary, finds its strength in moments of genuine connection, in seeing the whole person, roots and all, and loving them all the more for it. King Frederik's words are more than just a romantic anecdote. They are a testament to the enduring truth that love, at its core, is about feeling at home in another's world and welcoming them into your own. With this rare and moving insight into their love story, one can only wonder, how many of us would recognize the moment when we, too, have found our forever? Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment below to keep up with more captivating royal stories from around the world.